All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He is Steve Purciello, host of Celtic Chalk Talk, a longtime educator, vice principals, high school basketball coach, and athletic director. The Shot Clock Pod was born out of content in Steve's 13 Rules, random NBA thoughts articles, which he publishes weekly. Steve and I have exactly 24 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today, we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules, random NBA thoughts article, where he shares his random thoughts as the NBA, a real wild NBA offseason continues. Now, before we get into it, if you're listening to us, thank you. We want to let you know that you are listening to one of many independent fan-driven shows on the Peach Basket Podcast Network. We're not owned by a big media company, which means what you hear comes straight from real fans like Steve and I. If you believe and if you're here, you've got to believe that voices like us should be heard. We appreciate it, and the best way to support us is simple. Keep listening, tell a friend, comment. All that stuff means the world to us. And of course, when this episode ends, head over to the Peach Basket Podcast Network, head over to thepeachbasket.net, check out more fan-run podcasts, and help this independent network grow the way it started organically, one hoops fan like you at a time. All right, thanks again for listening or watching. Steve, this week you did a deep dive into 9 teams in the Eastern Conference and the changes they made this offseason. Then you threw in a special bonus 10th point. So we're going to talk about that. Are you ready to talk about the changing landscape of the East Coast?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, I'm going to start the timer, and we're off. All right, we're going to go top to bottom in the way you presented this, get through as many of these as we can.
Sure.
We start with the Philadelphia 76ers. This team on paper looks stacked. They look really good. You wrote that kind of there's 2 concerns, right? Health and figuring out that there's only one ball. Right? Figuring out that problem is going to be key. But I want to just call out the players here. Sixers added Jaylen Brown, Dean Wade, and Anthony Simons. That's an under-the-radar pick that's really pretty good for them, by the way. That really, at least here in the West, flew under the radar. That's a great pickup. Porty and the lost Paul George. What do you see? That's a weird team to figure out, right?
If you do it on paper, they're as good as anybody. But my question becomes, and it's not a knock on anybody or anything along that line, would a Maxey or a Jaylen Brown or an Embiid sacrifice being all NBA because they're not scoring what they should? Will Jaylen Brown be happy at the end of a game, which with the Celtics, he always had the ball? And again, Jaylen Brown likes to win. So it's not a knock. Anyway, the questions, are they going to be able to adjust to having other guys, a group of other guys? VJ Edgecombe's only going to get better. Are they going to be happy when there's 4 guys that need the ball? And if they do, and they can adjust to that, they're going to be pretty good. Defensively, they're not great at the guard spot with Maxey and Edgecombe. And that means that Embiid's got to have young legs to be able to be the rim protector. And he doesn't, he's not rebounding like he did or do any of that. So there's a lot of little questions. But talent-wise, if you put that team down anywhere, you'll find that they're loaded.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also want to call out that anytime you have a team that's loaded like this, that on paper looks great, you need a really good head coach, right? And I think they have that personally in Nick Nurse. I think that this is a guy, if anybody can put this together, it's going to be him.
I'm going to argue about that. Go ahead.
Let's go. Go ahead. What do you think? Because he won a title winner, exactly.
He deserves all the credit in the world. I've watched him in the playoffs and so on, and I'm going to cite one thing that stuck out in my mind when you said this. A couple years ago against the Knicks in the playoffs, the Knicks scored, and I guess it was a 1-point game with a few seconds left. Philadelphia took the ball out under the basket and threw it away, and the Knicks ended up winning the game. Now, in my mind, there's 10 seconds left, and the team scores. You're still leading. Call timeout and put the ball down the other end. So there is a steal, you can defend and react. Instead, when he did that, and I just sat there and said, this is an NBA coach. Now, there was other little things in a couple series I've watched where it hasn't not his brain, it didn't look as good. And now I'll give him credit. This year against Boston in Game 5, down by double digits in the second half, he decided And Embiid hadn't played in the post the whole series. He put him in the post. Boston had no answer for it. All they did was kept throwing the ball down to him. So I'll give him credit. But then when I saw that other thing that he wasn't good with, and I've seen a few other little things over the years that weren't great, I'm mixed on it. And I don't know if he's a coach that's a relation builder. And that's another piece. I don't know because I do know at the end of Toronto they tuned him out, and it was time for him to go. And that's my negatives and positives with Nick Nurse.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think I'll call out what I think you need when you have a team like this is a coach who they're going to listen to. And you're going to, by default, I think, listen to a coach who's won it all. At least you're going to tune him in initially. Now, he starts doing too much wrong, to your point, like in Toronto, you're going to stop listening to him. But you've got a coach in Nick Nurse who demands a little respect, at least initially. We'll
I
see
would
now.
think so, but those guys
Right?
have been with him for a couple of years, so who knows where they outside of Jaylen Brown they've been with
Right.
him. So we'll see.
We'll see.
You know, if you talk about coaching, just a brief thing, and I was like blown away. Joe Mazzulla has spent this summer. He's gone out to Nebraska where Baylor Shireman lives and worked out with him and just spent a couple days with him. He's gone to Spain where Hugo Gonzalez was playing for Madrid in this whatever it is in the summer. He's gone to Portugal where Tobias is and spent time. Each of them he spent a couple days with him. And the other place he's gone is Jordan Walsh in Texas, in Dallas. Now, what does that do? Builds a trust between two people.
Yeah,
And
no
Missoula's
doubt.
purpose is to learn about their upbringing, and he wants to know all that when he's dealing with these people, and he wants them to know he's caring. Now, that's going to the nth degree. I don't great, but it's going to the nth degree. But I just think that when he gets on Nehemiah's Queta next year, Kate is going to look at that and he's going to accept it. This guy
Yeah,
came
of
to
course.
Portugal to get to know me. This guy cared about where I spent my time as a kid. So those kind of things build buyback from these players and they will listen. I don't know what Nurse's relationships are, but again, that's the nth degree.
Yeah. No,
But
great call out. That's a great call out. And I think that goes to show that the job of an NBA coach is so much more than X's and O's. You've got to
oh
be
god,
good at that. But it's a mental thing. You've got to connect with these guys. You got to have them feel like you're with them, you're for them. And the whole mental thing, which Phil Jackson talked a lot about when he coached both Michael
well,
Jordan and the Bulls and the Lakers.
don't forget when Larry Bird coached Indiana for 3 years. Rick Carlisle was his offensive coach. The defensive coach was Dick Harder. That means Bird was really more about relationships and getting people to play hard. So you can get X's and O's from anybody,
Yeah.
but people have to believe when you tell them something and execute it.
Boom. Boom. It's a big year for Nick Nurse. And obviously, there's a lot riding on the Sixers. Let's see how things play out. It'll be interesting for sure. Let's move to Detroit. The Detroit Pistons, listen, I'm the West Coast guy. Steve's an East Coast guy. So when I think of the Pistons, I think of a real feel good story. This was a team that was really bad and then got really good. No stars. They're just grinders. It's a fun team to watch play. For me, I know some people don't like that style. I like it. I enjoy it. And it's a feel good story. But did they take a step back? You wrote the Pistons added John Collins, great player, Torian Prince, Gary Harris, strong vet. They lost Isaiah Stewart, Tobias Harris, a strong vet, Levert and Sasser. And then Duran, we don't know what's going to happen with Duran. So did they take a step back in Detroit?
I think, yeah, they did. Even if, and Doran's probably going to be back. But even if with Doran, think about this. They lost a guy. Harris was the guy that had the courage to shoot the ball at the end of games. Harris was the guy when things broke down, was the guy that made things happen. John Collins is a nice player. I don't know if he can come in and do the things that Tobias Harris did. Doran had a horrible playoffs, and that's why they're haggling over money right now.
Yeah.
And the biggest loss is, to me, Isaiah Stewart. he was like the heart and soul. And when things were going bad, he was out there. And if one of his players got picked on, everybody in the NBA is scared of Isaiah Stewart.
Me,
LeBron
Stu.
backed off. Yeah, LeBron backed off from him a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this guy. He's a boxer. He'll kick ass. Let's put it that way. So
Um,
when he gets involved, everybody backs away, and he's gone. So they've made some steps. I don't quite understand it because they were close. And they still are pretty good. And again, if a
yeah.
Sarah Thompson comes along as an offensive player, if they could be okay. They had something beautiful there and they just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to make of it, especially losing somebody who there's always one or two players on your team that kind of, none are the face, right? Cade Cunningham is the face. That's who you promote when you have a
Right.
Pistons game. But Isaiah Stewart was the guy who epitomized
Yep.
what the Pistons basketball style was like. That's fair, right? And yeah, to move on from him seemed a little surprising.
A lot of it, before you do it, a lot of it goes back to money. And again, Harris didn't get the money he wanted. Second apron. I guess they're close to the second apron. I'm not sure on that. And they don't want to go there. And they know they're
Yeah.
going to have to pay Duran.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've talked a lot about that second apron and what it's doing, and it's
It's
altering a
horrible.
lot. Yeah, there's some real problems, and we're stuck with it for another 2 seasons, as I
Two
understand. But
till
right,
29.
yeah, we'll see if something changes there. But also a little change in Detroit. We'll see if they can bounce back. Let's talk about the defending champion, the feel-good story of last season for everybody in New York. The New York Knicks lifted the banner, first time in since '70, I think, or something like that, '71 or something. So I'm going to ask the question: of the defending champs done enough to defend? Now, double-edged sword here: to defend their title and to defend on the court, because they lost Mitchell Robinson, right? Phenomenal defender. Ariel Hookporty, I'm not very familiar with his game, but they lost him. They picked up Andre Drummond, that to me is a synonym for Mitchell Robinson. There's a lot of similarities in their games, I think. What do you think? Did they do enough to defend their championship and to defend on the court?
The one thing, or two things maybe, but Robinson has over Drummond was, and I think he demonstrated in the playoffs last year, he can guard anybody. He can move and guard people. I don't know if Drummond can go out and guard a two or a two guard or whatever. That's the one area, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So Drummond, in that way, Drummond will give them. He's tough. He's physical. Does all those good things close to the basket. Good rebounder. Great rebounder, really. So they're not losing as much. And Drummond usually plays where Mitchell Robinson has been in and out over the years and has had seasons
Good
where he
point.
played 30 games. So those are factors. But Robinson, he can't shoot a foul shot, but he can do so many interesting things that can bring a team home that I don't know if it's not a good deal. And I think the Knicks, they were fortunate last year. Not a lot of injuries. If you go look at Anunoby's history, he's always been hurt. Last year, he really wasn't. Bridges hasn't missed a game in forever. Something's naturally, he just got his wrist operated on. They were fortunate health wise. They've had a lot of breaks. I'm not wishing any bad luck on any team, but what I'm saying is to make the run, they had to get a lot of things working, and they had them. And that's not going to be an easy thing. Even Robinson was healthy much of the year, and he's 50-50 all the time. He doesn't play back-to-backs and so on. So you're asking a lot. I think it's difficult. Plus, the East is better than it's ever been. They picked up a lot of players coming in this year that are good players into the East, and that's going to make it better also.
So I'm going to ask you straight up. We haven't had a defending NBA champion in a while. Are we going to next
Yeah.
season or the next defend? No. You didn't even
No,
let me get the words out.
no, I don't see it.
Okay.
You don't forget, San Antonio will be a year older, and Tobias Harris will help them mature a little bit. Oklahoma City's not a happy team right now. Right away, you got those two. If everything works right with Philadelphia, you got a third. So there's teams in the way. And I think the next team we're going to talk about, we'll get into something on that too. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's a great segue. Let's go to it. A team you know a little bit about, the Boston Celtics. Last season, the Celtics catalyst was Jaylen Brown. Undeniable. He put that team on his shoulders, and he led them to a really good season. 100% unexpected. Everybody saw it. Everybody knew it. It was undeniable. He's gone. What? He's gone. Boston Celtics lost Jaylen Brown. They picked up Mitchell Robinson, Mike Conley, and Paul George. What do we make of the Boston Celtics?
Well, before we do, and as time goes on, you begin to think things, try to think things more clearly. I want to say something. The Boston trade of Brown, I understand Brown is much better. And I'm not a defender of Brad Stevens or none, although he's done a great job through the years. What Stevens seemed to be doing in my mind was, I know he's got to pay Paul George for 2 more years. That we'll get to. But he realizes to win in the NBA, if you're going to put it together, you can't go with two guys making 35%. So he knows he's got to make a move, and he had to do it now. People say, why didn't you wait? Would have been eligible. I don't know the exact date. I think somewhere in July, where he would have been eligible to get 2 more years tacked on. You're going to do that for 70 million. So he had to do that because Brown knows he's being traded, and now he's not going to pay me. What is it? You got a problem. So he made that deal. I'm not going to say Paul George is the answer because he's not. However, two things. Paul George can shoot, and Paul George is never available. But if he can shoot and he can defend. So you got something there. But more importantly, if he plays out the year, there's going to be a bad team that'll take the salary for you have to throw a draft pick in, but now you've got rid of $57 million. Think about what you can go out and sign.
Yeah.
So what Brad Stevens, and he's restructuring his team is what I'm saying, because now he can go out and get a free agent next year and maybe pay $30 million, who can play and will complement Tatum, and look at what you got. Now Boston, what do I expect? They're not gonna win as many as last year, but they will be a better team because the East is better. Mitchell Robinson will help when he's available. And you got to realize what Missoula did. Cada, Shireman, Ugo, Gonzalez, Harper, all these guys, Jordan Walsh, they were guys who never played. And they played key roles in a team doing well. Now they're a year older, so they're going to get better. So they're not that far off. And again, who knows during the year if you can deal, and I'll just throw it out. What if the Nets come along and say, you know what, we'll take Paul George. You need to take Porter. And you got to give us a draft pick, a number one pick. Now you put Porter with Boston, and what happens? You got a pretty good team. Yeah. So there's a lot of factors here that are involved. Boston right now is not championship material, but that can change because that Paul George thing is a wild card. I know Brad Stevens will restructure the team. Cada just got $16 million. Pritchard will be getting paid too because he's the most underpaid guy in the NBA. So that's some of the cap money is going to go to them when Paul George is gone. But there's an avenue where they can restructure it and become good again, real good again. Contenders is my point.
So is it fair to say that your announcement to Boston fans is it's okay? Be patient, because your initial reaction was shock and anger, a little bit of anger. But now that the dust has settled, you'll be like, it's okay. We're going to be all right.
Stevens hasn't taken Boston down a bad road since. So you got to give him that. You got to give him that. And when you really start looking at it again, and I don't want to get into the weeds about the CBA, the bargaining agreement. I don't want to get into the weeds about that. But you understand how it does. It's almost if you take a team, okay, you need a star, top 10 player. They got him, Tatum. Okay, as long as he's healthy. Now, you've got to structure a team where, and start thinking about this, let's use $200 million. Tatum's getting 70. You got 130 million to spread out among 14 guys. It's not a lot of money. Or 13 guys, whichever way you want to do it. So now you've got to structure, okay, am I going to play? I'll pay another guy 30, maybe two guys 30, and then we've got to go from there. And it gets hard. So he's trying to restructure how they do business and put a team together.
Trust the process, trust the guy.
Well,
I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Let's see how things play out. Might be a little bumpy for Boston next season, but the future looks bright. You heard it here first.
I think NBA. One more
Oh, go
piece,
ahead.
though. I think
Yeah,
NBA
yeah.
fans, everybody looks at the talent on the court and all that stuff, and that is most important, obviously. But you do need to begin to understand a little bit about the bargaining agreement, because that's why teams are making
Yeah.
these wacky trades.
Yeah. Yeah, the business of basketball is front and center in the offseason, as it always is, and it's a bummer, but it is what it is. Let's talk about the team that won the offseason, right? The biggest fish, if you will, was Giannis, and he landed in Miami. They won free agency. Yay. But do they have enough around Giannis? Let's read what you wrote here. Miami Heat made the big trade. They got Tentakumpo and Bobby Portis. They gave up Tyler Hero, Claude Ware, Jaime Jaquez, who I like, Kasparis Yakachonis. I am not familiar with his
He's a good
game,
player.
and numerous draft picks. They also lost Norman Powell to free agency. So now that the dust has settled, let me ask it straight up: they got the big fish. Do they have enough?
How many guys do you need to play a basketball game?
At any point in time, five right on court.
Okay. You got Wiggins, and you got those two, Adebayo and Giannis. What else you got? Davion Mitchell? Yeah, okay.
He's
More
a
of a
good
bench,
player.
more of a bench player, but yeah, and a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
team.
yeah.
Who else?
I,
Nikola.
they got Pat Riley. Pat Riley. They got Pat Riley.
He hasn't played in about 50 years.
Okay.
Giannis is great. Adebayo's a very good player. You need to build some shooters around him. They did sign Hardaway. You need to build some
Right.
shooters, and he can shoot. What you're finding in the NBA, the teams that win usually can now have 8 players a coach can trust. And notice what I said, trust. A lot of teams, you'll know right away if a coach trusts him in the playoffs, because you'll see a guy go in and he'll make a mistake, and with a second, the coach will pull him. Guy, when a coach trusts him, he's leaving him out there after the mistake. So a lot of teams might use 8 players, but they really trust 5 or 6. Heat players, can you really trust? That's the question. And for Giannis to be good, Hardaway's a shooter. You better get a couple more, because I know they got Simone Fontecchio, and he can shoot, but he's limited. He's limited defensively and in every other way. That's why he's a minimum player, minimum salary player. So you need more. I
Yeah.
don't think this team is going to be. Again, add up. How are they going to score 100 points or 120 points on a night? Adebayo's not getting 83. So where are you getting him?
Well,
And just
Bam will get the 83. That's easy.
that's what I said. But yeah, but I don't think he's going to do it every night. Giannis will get his 30. Bam is what, about a 17, 18 point lifetime player?
Yeah.
That gives you
Yeah.
50 points. Where are you getting the other 50? Wiggins will get about 15.
Yeah.
Okay. Hardaway will probably get 10, because should be coming off the bench. And defensively, you're not, outside of Bam and Giannis, you don't have a great defense. Wiggins is
Yeah.
decent, but there's a lot of issues here. So I don't see them having. They could end up a playing team.
Wow. I'd be remiss. Is that the right word? I think if I don't call out it, you're putting a lot of credit or faith really in Brad Stevens, understandably.
Yeah,
If I'm a Miami guy, I'm going to push back and say, man, I got more faith in Pat Riley. He's been doing it since the 80s, right? So do we not have faith that Pat Riley can build a really good roster around Giannis?
of course we do, but it's the whole thing. What have you done lately?
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
And Brad's had a good couple of years where Pat, he struggled for the last couple of years. Riley believes in that star system. Get stars, you win. But the game is changing, and again, I'm going back to the CBA. That's changing a lot of things. So I don't know if you need 3 stars or 2 stars. I don't know if you need that. So the game's changing. Riley could be right, but I put my money on more of what Stevens is trying to do. He didn't do it yet, but he's trying to do.
Got it. Good call out. You heard the buzzer go off. We got through 5 of the 10. I'm going to make a suggestion here. We got 5 more to talk about in the East. Let's talk about them next week. Just so that because normally what we would do is we would just invite you to read the article, Steve's article, get the rest of the story. But if you're okay, Steve, can we talk about the
I'm
other
fine.
5 next week?
Whatever way you want to go.
I think that
Yeah.
makes sense. But before we leave Miami, there was an interesting story. I found it interesting. You brought up Hardaway, good player,
And
good shooter. He's worn number 11 in teams where 10 wasn't available. He gets to Miami, 10's not available. It's up in the rafters because his dad
yeah,
played there. And he goes to dad and says, I'd like to wear number 10. Pop says no. He's initially, right? He said, no, that's staying up there. You build your own legacy. And I get that. I understand it. Then I think a day or two later, did mom get involved? What happened? Because Tim Hardaway Jr. said, listen, I think that was my dad's knee jerk. And then we connected as a family. And all of a sudden, the jersey's coming down. What do you think happened there? I think it's interesting.
Tim Hardaway, over the last couple of years, Tim Hardaway Sr., has said some things that are a little out there, and I think he misses being part of the game. And I think he initially said, this is my connection to the game. I don't want people to forget that. But as time went on, if that were me, I'd be honored to see my son wear that,
100%.
number. So I think that got to him and he figured it out.
Yeah.
It's just a logical. I understand the first thought, but then the second thought, my God, my son, how good is that?
Yeah.
And Hardaway was a great player in his day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The Golden State team that he was a part of. I don't think of him as a Miami Heat player. To be honest, those Run DMC teams were phenomenally fun to watch.
TMC, Run TMC.
I was thinking about the rap group that they
Yeah.
were named after, essentially. But yeah, no, it's fun to talk about the human side. We talk about the CBA, we talk about the business side during the offseason. That's relevant because that's all
Right.
we have to talk about. So it's nice to talk about a little human story here, and this one really struck me, and I was glad we got to kind of whittle that one in at the end here. But that's it. Our shot clock went off. We have another shot clock violation. We talked about 5 of the 10 NBA teams in the East that Steve called out in his article. We'll link that wherever you're watching or listening to this show. We're going to talk about the other 5 next week. Make sure to join us then. But again, that's it. Our time is up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules article, not just this one, read them all. And they're all available at beachbasket.net. Lots of good wisdom, lots of good reads. And join us next week for more NBA Random Thoughts. We'll talk again then. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.